allow me.
Hare Krishna. Okay, will we begin?
Yes. 那我们现在就开始了啊。
Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya
Recording in progress.
Chaksuranmilitanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pistaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Kauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakaupatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today we're going to speak about the Rath Yatra. Lord Caitanya, yesterday we heard how they cleaned the Gundicha temple in preparation for Lord Jagannath coming there.
我们今天呢将讲述的是 Rath Yatra 弹车节。那昨天呢我们就讲了是 Caitanya Caritamrta 如何带领着大家一起清扫了拱地城庙，然后呢做好了让 Jagannath 主 Jagannath 能够到那里去的准备。
The Lord Jagannath deities had been off the altar. They had not been in public view for 2 weeks. After the first of all, there was the bath, the bathing ceremony, or the Snan Yatra, and then for 2 weeks they were not in public. They were not on the altar.
主 Jagannath 的这些神像呢，因为被请下了神坛，他们在2个星期之内呢都不会被大众所见。那首先呢，当把神像给请下神坛之后呢，是先给他们进行了沐浴的仪式，就是 Snan Yatra， 然后呢就把他们给送到一个地方，这会儿呢就他们先不会再回到这个神坛上了。
So during the 2 weeks, the bodies of the deities were repainted.
所以呢，在这2个星期里面呢，主的这个就这个神像的这个身体会被重新的粉刷。
And the day before the deities come into public view, the devotees all went to Gundicha to clean the temple.
所以说呢，当所有的神像能够再次出现在大众的面前之前的那一天，所有的奉献者先到拱地城的庙里面进行打扫。
So the next day, after the devotees had cleaned the temple, all the devotees, they woke up very early and they all took their morning bath, and after taking their morning bath, they went to see Lord Jagannath.
所以第2天，就是在他们进行完打扫的第2天，所有的奉献者们清晨很早就起来了，然后呢，他们就到河里面去沐浴。经过了清晨的沐浴之后呢，他们就去觐见主 Jagannath。
So there's a special ceremony there in Jagannath Puri when the Jagannath deities leave the altar and they come to get onto the Rath Yatra car.
所以呢，在 Jagannath Puri 就有这么一个特别的仪式。当 Jagannath 的这些神像他们从神坛被请下来之后呢，他们会坐上坛车 Rath Yatra 的这个车子。
Maharaj Prataparudra, the king of Puri, and all of his servants, they all attended the ceremony.
Puri 的国王 Prataparudra 王以及他所有的仆人们全部都参加了这个仪式。
And they made sure that all the devotees of Lord Caitanya were able to observe the ceremonies which were taking place.
而且呢，他们也要确认 Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 的所有的这些奉献者们都会来观察、参加这个在进行的这个盛大的节日。
Lord Chaitanya, along with Advaita Acharya and Lord Nityananda, they were all very happy to see the festival, to see how everything was done for the service of Lord Jagannath.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 与主 Nityananda 还有主Advaita Acharya 一起，都非常的开心的能够看到为主准备的这么好的一个盛大的节日所做的那些筹备。
The deities, particularly the deity of Lord Jagannath and Lord Balaram, are very big. They're bigger in size than a person, they're more than 6 feet tall, and they're heavy. They're very solid. But they're carried by hand. They're not. There's no vehicle. The devotees just carry them.
那主 Jagannath 的神像还有主 Balaram 的神像都是非常高大的，都要比6英尺还要高，所以呢，就是比一个人的这个身形尺寸要大，而且呢，他们也非常的重，很沉。但是当时就没有任何的工具器具，都是奉献者们用手来扛动他们的。
So the people who were given the service to carry the deities, they were really well-built, strong people.
所以说呢，被分配到来扛举神像的这些奉献者们，他们是非常身强力壮的。
And these people come from special families who do this service every year.
而且这些奉献者们呢，他们都是来自于特别的家庭，他们每年都会做这同样的服务。
And these people, their families actually, they were all engaged in raising pigs. They would keep pigs, raise pigs, and sell pigs. So they were not in a very high social position.
而且就这些家庭呢，他们做的事情都是养猪的，他们会养猪喂猪，所以呢，就是这样的这个家庭，他们并不是来自于社会很高阶层的人。
Actually, they're considered among the lowest of people in the society.
事实上呢，他们被认为是在社会中最低等阶层的人。
But because they have so much devotion for the Lord, they're allowed to do this service.
但是呢，就是由于他们对主有这么深的奉爱之情，所以呢，他们就特别想要做这样的服务，就特别热爱做这个服务。
So the way in which they carry Lord Jagannath is that they bind Lord Jagannath with thick ropes, silken ropes. They put these silken ropes around the chest of Lord Jagannath, and in this way they're able to share the weight. Many people together, they pull on the ropes and it picks up Lord Jagannath.
就他们扛主 Jagannath 的这个方式呢，是用丝线，用这个丝拧成的这个绳子，把它给捆在主 Jagannath 的胸前，然后呢，大家再拉动这个绳子，用拉动捆在主 Jagannath 的胸前的这个绳子来分担扛起主 Jagannath 的这个力量。
And some of the devotees, when they're carrying Lord Jagannath, some will hold him on the shoulders, and some will carry his lotus feet.
所以有的奉献者呢是抓着这个绳子，有的呢是扛着主 Jagannath 的肩膀，有的呢是握着主 Jagannath 的莲花足。
So they have these very big, thick cushions. And they would carry the deities from one cushion to the other cushion.
而且呢，他们还有很厚重的垫子，所以呢，他们就把这个神像从一个厚重的垫子给挪到另外一个厚重的垫子上。
It's very crowded. It's difficult to move, and the deities are very heavy. So they only carry the deities a little bit at a time. And they carry for a little bit and put them down, and then pick up again, carry a little bit, put them down.
那首先呢，聚众的人群特别的多，所以说呢，就往前移动就很困难。然后呢，这个神像又很重， 所以呢，要把它移动也很困难。所以呢，他们就只是把这神像抬起来，然后呢往前挪用一点儿，然后把神像给放到那个垫子上，然后再把它抬起来，再往前挪动一点儿，就是一点点的往前挪。
And they put when they put the deity down, they put him on top of this cushion.
就是当他们把这个神像再放下来的时候呢，就把这神像放在那个垫子上。
They don't put the deities on the ground. They have these big, nice cushions to put the deities on.
所以说呢，他们不会把神像直接放到地上，他们是有很好的、好质量的这个垫子，然后让神像放在上面的。
But sometimes the cushions will break open. The cushions are all packed full with cotton, and because the deity is so heavy, the cushion will split, and the cotton will burst out and fly in the air.
那这个垫子呢，都是棉花垫子，就是里面是蓄了很多的棉花的。但有的时候呢，因为这个神像太重了，所以当神像放到这个垫子上的时候呢，这垫子就裂开了。这裂开之后呢，里面的棉花就一下飞出来，就飞到空中。
So we should understand Lord Jagannath is the maintainer of the whole universe. So it's not easy to carry him from one place to another.
所以我们要知道，主Jagannath他是宇宙之主，所以说呢，要想挪动它，并不是一件容易的事儿。把它从一个地方挪到另外一个地方，不是一个轻省活儿。
It's only by the special will of Lord Jagannath that by his own will he can perform this pastime to move from one place to another.
只有在主Jagannath自己的意愿之下，他才能够上演这样的逍遥时光，就是才能够允许他被从一个地方被挪到另外一个地方。
So they were bringing Lord Jagannath from the temple, out of the temple, and to carry him, and there are many steps, they had to carry him down the steps and to put him on the chariot.
所以说呢，他们要把主Jagannath从庙里面给请出来，然后从庙里出来之后呢，还有好多台阶儿，他们要把神像给搬下这个台阶儿，然后呢再把他给请到那个车上。
And there was many people. It was really crowded, and some different groups were there, and there was all kinds of kirtan and all kinds of musical instruments being played.
那当时的这个情况呢，就是有很多很多的人，而且呢，大家是聚的是一群又一群的人，有很多人呢在唱诵着 kirtan， 而且也在演奏着各种各样的乐器。
And when they were carrying the deities from the temple, from the throne to the car, at that time the king, Maharaj Prataparudra, he was sweeping the road for them to bring deities on the road. He would clean the road.
那他们把神像从神像的，就是他本来安坐的那个座位上给请下来，然后把它给搬到路上的那个车上的时候呢，这不有条路吗？那Prataparudra王呢就在清扫这个路，让这个路变得更加的干净。
And they'd given the king, they'd given him a special broom which had a golden handle.
那国王他所用的这把笤帚呢，是一把特别的笤帚。那上面的那个笤帚的把手呢，是金子做的。
So often, when we have Rath Yatras in our ISKCON society, sometimes we'll get to invite people like the mayor or some important politician will come.
在 ISKCON 在进行弹车节的时候呢，有的时候在弹车节之后，我们就会邀请一些很重要的人物到场，比如说邀请市长来参加。
And we will explain to him the custom about how the king sweeps the road for the deity, and we'll ask him also to take the broom and sweep for Lord Jagannath.
当时呢，我们也会向这位市长来解释，就是当时主Jagannath被搬过来的时候的这个习俗，会告诉他国王如何为这条路清扫，所以呢，也会给他一把有着金色把手的笤帚，让他来扫这条路。
So one time we had a big Rath Yatra in England, and we had the mayor there. The mayor had come, and we asked the mayor to sweep the road for the deity.
然后有一次呢，我们在英国就举行了一场弹车节，然后呢，当时我们就邀请了一位市长， 然后呢就请市长来为神像扫他前面的这条路。
So the mayor was very favorable, and he agreed. He took the broom and he began to sweep.
那然后呢，因为这位市长他还是非常的喜欢这个活动的，所以说呢，他就很配合的拿着笤帚开始扫地。
And so it happened that his wife was there. The wife of the mayor had come, and she saw her husband sweep the road, and she said, "Oh, I didn't know my husband knew how to use a broom. I'm going to get him to clean the house."
然后呢，当时因为市长夫人也在。然后市长夫人看见她的丈夫在扫地，完了她就开玩笑说：“哦，我还真不知道我的丈夫会用笤帚扫地呢。那我现在得让他为我们的家里边也扫扫了。”
So very nice. The king, by sweeping the road, the king not only swept the road, but he sprinkled the road with sandalwood and scented water.
国王呢，他不仅仅是扫了地，而且呢，他还用檀香浆叶，还有
rose water. Haribo?
Yes, Maharaj.
Rose water. Did you get that?
Yes, I said that. Oh no, I didn't say rose water. I just heard you say rose water. 他就用这个玫瑰花的香味儿所混成的这个香水喷洒了地面。
So the king was like a menial servant. He became a very humble servant of Lord Jagannath.
那所以说，这位国王呢，他就像是主 Jagannath 的一位非常的卑微的仆人一样，在做着很卑微的服务。
Although the king is he's the most important person in the whole kingdom of Orissa. He was the king, he was the head of everyone, but still he became the servant of Lord Jagannath.
那虽然说这位国王他贵为 Orissa 之王，他的位置呢是高居于所有人之上的，但是呢，他依然也是主 Jagannath 的一位仆人。
So because of his humility, he became a good candidate to get the mercy of Lord Jagannath.
但是呢，就是由于他的这样的谦卑，使得他成为了能够得到主 Jagannath 的仁慈的候选人。
And Lord Caitanya, seeing the king serve Lord Jagannath, he was also very happy.
而且当时 Caitanya Mahaprabhu 看到这位国王这样服务主 Jagannath 的时候呢，他也非常的欣慰。
We know before we were telling that Lord Caitanya didn't want to meet the king. He considered the king to be a materialist and didn't want to meet him. But now he's seeing the king as really a nice devotee.
那我们之前呢都已经听到了，国王主 Caitanya Mahaprabhu 他就不想见国王，因为他觉得国王是一位物质主义者。但是呢，他现在看到国王的这一番行为之后呢，他心里边非常的欢喜。
So by the mercy of the spiritual master, you get the mercy of Krishna.
所以在灵性导师的仁慈之下，他就得到了 Krishna 的仁慈。
But we have to have faith in both Krishna and in Guru.
但是呢，我们必须要对他们俩都有信心，就是对 Krishna 和 Guru 都要有信心。
And we should understand the Guru is the representative of Krishna. So faith should be equal faith in both Guru and in Krishna.
我们应该理解 Guru 是 Krishna 的代表，所以说呢，我们对 Guru 和对 Krishna 的信心要相等的，要有同等的信心。
It's only by their mercy that we can engage in devotional service.
因为只有在他们的仁慈之下，我们才能够从事关爱服务。
So everyone was astonished to see the size of the Rath Yatra car. It was so big and it was so nicely decorated.
所以所有的人看到Rath Yatra 的这个坛车是如此巨大的时候，都感到非常的震惊。看到这个车被装点的如此美妙的时候呢，也感到非常的震惊。
And the chariot, it appeared to be like that, almost as high as Mount Sumeru.
而且呢，就这个车它的这个高度呢，就好像是 Sumeru 山一样高。
And just like Sumeru mountain is gold, this chariot also appeared to be just like gold.
而且呢，Sumeru 山它是一座金山， 这弹车呢，它看起来也像是金子制成的。
And Srila Prabhupada describes, he said, in 1973 they had a Rath Yatra in London.
舍巴巴他就描述说呢，在1973年的时候呢，他们在伦敦进行过一次弹车节。
And they built a big chariot.
他们当时呢就建起了一辆非常巨大的弹车。
So one of the English newspapers, they put the big picture of the chariot, and they showed the picture of the chariot in the center of London.
然后当时呢，就是一家报纸，他们就为这个车子照了一张很大的一张图片，然后他们就把这个图片呢放在了伦敦的市中心。
And the chariot was right in the center of London, where there's a place called Trafalgar Square.
Trafalgar Square。那在伦敦的这个中心呢，有一个地方叫 Trafalgar 广场。然后呢，这个图片就放在这个广场的旁边。
Yeah, this is right in the center of London, and it's a very famous tourist attraction. In the middle of that Trafalgar Square, there's a big column which is called Nelson's Column, because Nelson, there's a person called Admiral Nelson who's on top of the column. His statue is on top of the column.
就这个伦敦的这个市中心呢是非常著名的，而且呢很多的游客都会在这儿。就在这个广场的边上呢，就有一根柱子，这根柱子呢被称为叫尼尔森柱，就是尼尔森的雕像就在这个柱子的顶上。
So the newspaper said our chariot was challenging Nelson's column because it almost appeared to be as tall as that column.
因为就是这个车子的这个图像，它的这个高度和这根柱子的高度差不多高了，所以说呢，这报纸上就写到，这个车子它在挑战我们的尼尔森柱子。
So Prabhupada liked these kind of things. He thought this is very nice.
所以说，爸爸他特别喜欢这样的展示，他觉得这个很赞。
Another time they did Rath Yatra in New York, in New York City, on the 5th Avenue, which is like the most important street in New York.
还有一次呢，是在纽约的第5大道举行了弹车节。那这第5大道呢，是纽约的基本上是最著名的一条街道了。
And they had the big chariot procession, they had all the Rath Yatra chariots, and they had all the vehicles of the devotees. It was a big parade, and many devotees.
所以当时呢，是一个很大型的弹车节的节日，然后有好多就是所有的这些大型的弹车，还有奉献者所开的车子，还有奉献者们所组成的游行的这个队伍，全部都在街上了。
So the New York paper printed a caption in the headlines. They said, 5th Avenue, where East meets West.
OK，那然后呢，他们在这个报纸的这个头条上就写到第5大道东方遇见了西方。
Yeah, because the East, being the Eastern culture, the Rath Yatra festival, it's not an American festival, it's coming from India. So they said this is Eastern culture and it's in the West, it's there in America.
因为呢，就是这个弹车节的这个节日呢，是一个东方文化的节日，是来自于印度的节日，它并不是西方特有的这个节日。但是呢，这个东方的节日现在西方的第5大道上演了，所以被称为叫东方遇见了西方。
So these Rath Yatra festivals now, they go on all over the world practically.
但是现在呢，应该说这样的弹车节已经在世界各地都很盛行了。
So the Rath Yatra car was really well decorated and was covered with many different mirrors, and there were many bells also hanging on the chariot, and there were chamaras also.
这个车子呢是被很盛大的装点起来的，那上面有很多的镜子，有很多的铃铛，还有chamaras 就是摇的那个牛毛。Is that chamara? Is that the ox ox.
Chamara, no,
Chamara.
Chamara is
浮尘
the
就是
Duchan.
还有
Puchan.
还有浮尘
Fuchan, yeah, right. So the chariot was also decorated with a lot of silk cloth, and there were also many pictures hanging on it.
然后呢，这车子上还裹着很多的丝布，上面挂着很多的图片。
So Lord Jagannath would get on one car, and Subhadra would be on her car, and Balaram has his car. So each of the three deities, they each had their own car.
那么三尊神像主 Jagannath 有他自己所坐的车子专车，Subhadra 呢也有他的车子，主 Baladev 有他的车子，所以三尊神像分别坐在自己的车子里。
So before Lord Jagannath, before the Rath Yatra, for 15 days, for 2 weeks, Lord Jagannath had been staying in a quiet place, away from all the people. Nobody could see him. At that time, he was with the goddess of fortune.
那我们大家要知道，在盘车节之前的这2个星期，主他们是没有在大众的视线范围内的，他们是在另外一个地方。那这会儿呢，他们是和主 Jagannath 是和幸运女神在一起的。
So Lord Jagannath had taken permission from the goddess of fortune. He said, "I want to go home and visit my relatives in my home."
然后呢，主 Jagannath 就向幸运女神就请示。他说呢，我想回家去看看我的家里边的那些亲戚们。
So, of course, Lord Jagannath is Krishna, and his home is Vrindavan. So he wants to actually go to Vrindavan.
所以说呢，主 Jagannath 是 Krishna， 那他的家呢是 Vrindavan， 所以这里面他的意思是说，他想回 Vrindavan 的家。
So Lord Jagannath had been a good husband for 15 days. He'd been staying with his wife in a quiet place.
然后呢，因为主 Jagannath 呢，他是一个好丈夫，这15天他都和他的妻子，在一个很僻静的地方度过的。
But now, Lord Jagannath wants to come out of the seclusion, and he wants to be with his devotees.
但是这会儿呢，主 Jagannath 他就不想再在这个独处的这个地方待着了，他想出来见他的奉献者们。
So Lord Jagannath is none different from Lord Krishna, and he enjoys himself in 2 ways. One is called Swakiya, and that means in married life, and the other is Parakiya, which means without marriage.
所以呢，主 Jagannath 他其实就是主 Krishna， 那他呢是希望以2种方式来享受。第一种方式呢被称为叫 Swakiya， 也就是在婚姻中的生活；另外一种呢被称为叫 Parakiya， 也就是为婚的生活。
So Lord Jagannath, Lord Krishna, he'd been in Dwarka. In Dwarka, he lives with his queens, and of course they're married. He married all of the queens.
那所以主 Jagannath 也就是主 Krishna， 他生活在 Dwarka， 和所有的这些皇后们生活在一起。但是他和这些皇后们生活在一起的时候呢，他是和皇后们是明媒正娶的婚姻生活的。
But in Vrindavan, the Lord is not with his wives, but he's with his girlfriends, the gopis.
但是当主 Krishna 在稳达文的时候，他并没有和他的妻子们在一起，而是和他的这些女朋友们在一起，也就是和这些 gopi 们在一块儿。
So this relationship with the gopis, this is called Parakiya Rasa.
所以说呢，和 gopi 们之间的这种关系呢，被称为叫 Parakiya Rasa。
So Lord Jagannath left the company of the goddess of fortune. The goddess of fortune, that's his wife, and he goes to Vrindavan to be with his girlfriends.
所以说呢，主 Jagannath 他就离开了幸运女神，也就是离开了他的妻子，然后呢去到稳达文。
So Lord Jagannath gets more pleasure in being with his girlfriends than being with his wife.
所以主 Jagannath 在和他的女朋友们在一起的时候呢， 他其实比和他的妻子们在一块儿更开心。
Now, in the material world, to be with unmarried girlfriends, that's the lowest, it's the most degraded kind of relationship.
但是在物质世界呢，和未婚的女朋友一起，这其实是最，因为这其实是就是最低等的一种关系了。
Yes. But in the spiritual world, this kind of loving affair without marriage, this is considered the highest enjoyment.
但是呢，在灵性世界，就是在未婚中的爱恋关系，被认为是最崇高的、最高级的享受。
In the material world, everything is a reflection of the spiritual world.
在这个物质世界，所有的一切都是灵性世界的折射。
And that reflection is perverted.
而且呢，就这种折射还是扭曲了的折射。
So we cannot understand the affairs of the spiritual world on the basis of our own experience in the material world.
所以说呢，我们其实是按照我们在物质世界的经历去理解在灵性世界的这个爱的展示的。
So many so-called educated people, they cannot understand Krishna's pastimes with the gopis.
所以说呢，有很多所谓的受过良好教育的人，他们是没有办法理解 Krishna 和 Gopi 女朋友们的这个关系的展示的。
So these pastimes of Krishna with his gopis, which is outside of marriage, it's not usually discussed in the presence of neophyte devotees.
所以说呢 ，Krishna 和 Gopi 们在婚姻之外的这种关系的交时光，就很少在初级奉献者中间进行谈论。
This kind of topic is only to be understood by advanced devotees.
因为这样的话题呢，只能够被那些高级精进的奉献者理解。
Because the pastimes of Lord Krishna with the gopis in the spiritual world, this is the highest expression of love.
因为呢，主 Krishna 和 Gopi 姑娘们在灵性世界的这种婚姻外的展示，消时光的展示，是最高的爱的形式的展示。
Now, somebody may be quite an educated person, but he may not be able to recognize what is actually gold and what is actually iron.
有些人他可能貌似是一位受过很多的教育的人，但是呢，他其实分不清楚什么是金子，什么是铁。
No, actually, no, he can. If he's educated, he can distinguish gold and iron.
Sorry， 就是如果要是一个人他是受过良好教育的话呢，他是能够分清楚金子和铁的。
But the ordinary people, most people not very well educated, so they can't understand.
但是呢，大部分的普通人是没有受过那么高的教育的，所以呢，他就分不清楚什么是金子，什么是铁。
And we should. There's a lot of similarity between the place Jagannath Puri and Vrindavan. There are similar features which help Lord Caitanya to think that he's in Vrindavan.
在加格纳普瑞和在文达文是有很多的相似之处的，这些相似之处呢，就是便于主 Caitanya Mahaprabhu 去冥想着文达文。
Just like on either side, as they pull the chariot down the road, on one side there's it's all sand, it's a beach.
那就比如说他们把这个车给拖出来之后呢，就在一边是海滨，然后这海滨上就有很多沙滩。
And all the sand on the road, it makes the place like Yamuna, just like being in Vrindavan or near the Yamuna. There's a lot of sand everywhere.
所以说呢，就是这个沙子，这个沙滩呢，就营造出一种雅穆纳的状态。因为呢，在文达文的这个雅穆纳河的河岸边上，也是有很多的沙子的。
And there's different small gardens on either side of the road. That's also like Vrindavan.
而且呢，在路的两边呢，还有好多小的这些花园。那么这些小花园们呢，也很像文达文的状态。
So when Lord Jagannath is on the chariot and he's going down the road and he can look on both sides of the road, he feels very happy because he thinks, oh, this is Vrindavan.
所以说呢，当主 Jagannath 他坐在车子上，然后这个车子被拖在道路上的时候呢，主 Jagannath 就看着道路两旁，他就感到非常的开心，因为他就觉得这地方特别的像文达文。
So they have big ropes on the chariot. There's no engine, there's no motor. They just pull the chariot. It's pulled by hand.
所以呢，这个车子上是没有发动机的，所以呢，这个车子它动，完全是靠着拉动绳子而拉动这个车子的。
And there's no brakes on the chariot also.
而且在车上呢，也没有刹车装置。
So sometimes people die, sometimes people are run over.
Really?
Yeah.
You mean? OK. 那所以有的时候呢，人们就会因为被车子压过去而丧命。
And sometimes people give up their bodies. They come there with that intention to throw themselves under the chariot of Lord Jagannath.
而且还有的人呢，有的时候他就是怀着这样的用意的，他来到弹车的面前，就是为了要让车子从他的身上压过去。
Even one time in Australia, the devotees were having Rath Yatra, and some woman came and she threw herself under the chariot and got run over.
然后就即便是有一次在澳大利亚的弹车节上，当奉献者拖着弹车在街上走的时候，有一位女子，她就一下奔到了这个车子的前面，然后钻到了这个车子底下，让车子在她身上压了过去。
And there was one devotee there, and he was saying, "Chant Hare Krishna, chant Hare Krishna." For
然后当时有一位奉献者，有一位奉献者马塔吉，他就使劲对大家说，为他唱 Hare Krishna， 为他念诵 Hare Krishna。
But some other people, they said, "Quick, get an ambulance."
但是还有的人呢，就说赶紧叫救护车。
So sometimes the chariot, sometimes they can pull it and it will go very fast, and sometimes it will go very slow.
所以说呢，在拉动这个弹车的过程中，有的时候这车子就跑得特别快，有的时候呢，这车子就走得很慢。
And sometimes they're pulling it and it won't move at all.
而且有的时候呢，当他们在拖动车子的时候，这车子根本就一点都不动。
So the chariot moves by the arrangement of Lord Jagannath, not by the pulling of the devotees.
所以说呢，这车子动不动，这完全是取决于主加格纳特的意愿，而并不取决于奉献者在拉动它。
So one time when the chariot was still, the chariot had stopped, Lord Caitanya got all the devotees, and he decorated all the devotees with flower garlands and sandalwood pulp.
那有一次呢，就是当这个弹车停在那儿的时候呢，Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu他就召集了所有的奉献者，然后呢，他就用花环以及用檀香浆叶点缀着所有的这些奉献者们。
And Lord Caitanya gave nice garlands and sandalwood to all the great devotees.
然后呢，Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu呢就把花环和檀香浆叶，就把花环赠给了所有的这些伟大的奉献者们，并且给他们涂上了檀香浆。
Especially the devotees who are doing Sankirtan, because they're doing Sankirtan, it's very hot, and they're playing Madanga, somebody's playing Madanga, somebody's singing, dancing, so they get very hot, it's very tiring. So Lord Caitanya would give them all flower garlands and put sandalwood pulp on them.
特别是对那些在进行 Sankirtan 的奉献者们，因为天气特别的热，然后呢，这些奉献者们打着米尔当格拉鼓，然后尽情的唱着跳着，但是他们是很热的，所以呢，Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu呢就给他们戴上了花环，并且呢给他们抹上了檀香浆叶。
And Lord Caitanya had personally organized the Sankirtan, and he divided all the devotees into 4 parties.
而且Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu呢，他是亲自安排了 Sankirtan， 他把所有的奉献者，他把参加 Sankirtan 的这些奉献者给分成了4个队伍。
And in each party, there were 2 Madanga players. So that's 4 parties, and each party has 2 Madanga players, so altogether 8 Madanga players.
所以呢，每一个团队就是每一个队伍呢都有2个鼓手，2个米当嘎鼓的鼓手，所以如果是4个团队，就一共有8个人打鼓。
And they had 24 people to chant.
然后有24位 kirtan 唱手。
And then Lord Caitanya picked out which devotees were to be the lead singer and who was to be the main dancer.
然后呢，Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu他要指认哪一位来作为领唱，以及哪一位作为领舞。
The dancer is very important because if somebody's dancing very nicely, then it encourages the Madanga player, and the Madanga player will play nice on the drum. And when Madanga plays nicely, then everybody will sing nicely.
这个领舞是非常的重要的，因为他如果要是能够跳得很好的话呢，那他就能够一直鼓励这个鼓手打鼓打得很棒。那么这个打鼓打得很棒的，如果要是鼓打得很棒呢，就能够让这个 kirtan 就唱得很好。
So there were 4 parties. Lord Caitanya picked the dancer in each of the parties. He had Lord Nityananda dance in one party, and Advaita Acharya dance in another, and Haridas Thakur dance in one more, and the 4th party was Vakreshwara Pandit.
然后呢，这个Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu呢，他就指派了每一个队伍里面的领舞。首先呢，朱尼天南的率领一支队伍，然后呢是 Advaita Acharya 在另外一支队伍里面跳舞领舞，然后呢是 Haridas Thakur 在另外一个队伍里面领舞，然后是 Vakrish Pandit Vakreshvara 是在另外一个队伍中领舞。
Vakreshvara Pandit was a very famous kirtaniya. He could dance and chant for 30 hours at a time without stopping.
Vakreshvara Pandit 他是一位非常的著名的 kirtan 领唱手，他可以一连 how many hours? 72 hours, right?
Oh, 72 hours, is it? Okay.
Sorry, what did you say?
No, it's okay. Yes, 72 hours. Okay.
那他可以是一连72个小时的这个唱歌、唱诵和跳舞不带停的。
So he was a very great devotee.
所以呢，他是一位非常伟大的奉献者。
And you see, these men are not very young. Advaita Acharya, he's quite an old man.
而且我们可以看到，所有的这些奉献者，他们其实都不年轻了。Advaita Acharya 是一位老人了。
And Haridas Thakur also is old. He was about the same age as Advaita.
Haridas Thakur 的岁数也很大了，他和 Advaita Acharya 是相当的年纪的。
But Lord Caitanya chose them to be the main dancers.
但是呢，主 Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 就选择他们作为主要的领舞者。
And for the chanter in the one party, the main chanter was to be Swarup Damodar.
那么作为这个领唱 ，sorry March.
Yes, Swarup Damodar was chosen to be the singer.
OK， 然后呢，就是作为领唱手呢 ，Swarup Damodar 是其中的一个队伍的领唱手。
His singing would be very pleasing to Lord Caitanya.
因为 Swarup Damodar 他的歌声呢是非常的让 Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 感到心仪的。
And then Lord Caitanya selected 5 people to go with him, and they were to respond to his set chanting.
然后呢 ，Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 呢又选择了另外5位奉献者来跟着 Swarup Damodar 的后面来合唱。
So Swarup Damodar was to sing, and Advaita Acharya was to dance.
所以说呢 ，Swarup Damodar 唱，Advaita Acharya 跳舞。
Then there was to be another group, and in the other group, Srivas Thakur was going to be the singer.
然后就是另外一个队伍呢是 Srivas Thakur 是领唱。
And Nityananda was the dancer.
那朱尼天南的是舞者。
And then 5 devotees to respond to to.
在 Srivas Thakur 身后呢，也有5位奉献者来合唱。
And then there were other people. One singer was to be Makunda. Makunda had a very beautiful voice, and his singing was always pleasing to Lord Caitanya.
那还有一位主要的唱手呢是Mukunda的歌声是非常的动人的，他的歌声也是非常的让 Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu 喜欢的。
And Haridas Thakur, he was to be the dancer.
在他这一组里呢 ，Haridas Thakur 是领舞。
So you can see how organized. And then they had 5 people also to respond to the chanting.
大家可以看到他们的安排是多么的有序，然后在他们的后面呢，也有5位奉献者合唱。
So then in another group, there was the singer was to be Govinda Ghosh.
那然后下面另外一组的歌唱者呢是 Govinda Ghosh。
Yeah, and Vakreshwara Pandit's the dancer.
然后呢 Vakreshwara 是舞者。
So the different people, many devotees, the Bengali devotees, they come from different villages, and each of the villages they'll have their own group of kirtan devotees.
因为所有的这些奉献者呢，都是从孟加拉的各个村子来的。那么每一个村子来的这些奉献者们，也都有他们自己的领唱手。
Just like Advaita comes from Shantipur.
那么就好像 Advaita Acharya 他是来自于 Shantipur 的。
So then they brought all the devotees with them from Shantipur, and one of them was the son of Advaita Acharya, Achyutananda.
然后呢，Advaita Acharya 就把 Shantipur 的所有这些奉献者都给带来了。那么其中呢，有一位奉献者呢是 Advaita Acharya 的儿子，他的名字是Achyutananda。
So Achyutananda was to be the dancer. He's a young man. He was made the dancer in that group.
所以呢，在这一个群体里面呢，Achyutananda 他是领舞者，他还是一个年轻人。
So there were 4 parties chanting and dancing in front of Lord Jagannath.
那所以说呢，在主 Jagannath 的面前呢，就有这么4队人，他们在唱诵着，在舞蹈着。
And then there's one party on the left side and another party on the right side of Lord Jagannath.
那然后呢，在主 Jagannath 的左边有一队人，右边有一队人。
Then there was another party at the back behind Lord Jagannath.
还有呢，就是在主 Jagannath 的这个车子的后面有一队人。
So that now you have 7 different groups of doing Sankirtan.
那所以呢，我们现在就可以看到有7组人在进行 Sankirtan。
And each group had 2 men playing the drum. So altogether now 14 drums.
那然后呢，就是每一组人里面呢都有2位鼓手，所以现在我们可以看到，因为有7组人，那就是有14个鼓手。
And so they were all playing the drums at the same time. They were very loud, and all the devotees were just going crazy in ecstasy.
那这14个鼓手他们是同时击鼓的，所以呢，这个声音是非常的宏大的，也就使得当时所有的这些奉献者们都处在极乐的疯狂的状态下。
So all the devotees, they all came together, just like a number of clouds all come together. So
那么所以当所有的奉献者他们聚集在一起的时候呢，就好像是云聚集在一起一样。
And the devotees were chanting the holy name, tears coming from their eyes like rain.
奉献者们在唱诵着圣名，泪水如这个倾泻的暴雨般从他们的眼中倾泻而下。
So the sound of the kirtan was so great that you couldn't hear anything else except the kirtan.
因为这个 kirtan 的声音是响声震天的，除了 kirtan 的声音之外，再也听不到其他的声音了。
And Lord Caitanya would be walking through the different parties, and he would shout, "Hari, Hari, and Jagannath ki jai."
然后呢，Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu 呢，他会穿梭在所有的这些队伍中间，然后呢，他会大声的呼唤着 Hari Hari Jagannath ki jai.
And so then Lord Caitanya showed his mystic powers.
然后呢，Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 就显示了他的玄秘力量。
That he was able to appear in the different kirtan groups.
也就是说呢，他能够显现在，同时显现在这不同的 kirtan 的群组里。
Lord Chaitanya, everybody was thinking, Lord Chaitanya is dancing in our group.
所有的奉献者都在觉得，Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 他就是在我们这一队里面跳舞唱诵。
He doesn't go anywhere else. He's only with us. He's giving us the greatest mercy.
他哪儿都没去，他一直都和我们在一起，他给我们了最多的仁慈。
Only the most confidential devotees could understand what was happening.
所以呢，只有最机密的是Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 的这些奉献者们才能够弄明白当时发生了什么。
So Lord Jagannath was enjoying the Sankirtan very much. He arranged the chariot to stay in one place just so he could see all the Sankirtan.
所以说呢，Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 呢是在尽情的享受着这Sankirtan。那么他呢就让这个车 ，he asked the cart to stay in one place and he can see all of the Sankirtan.
Yeah, because Lord Jagannath, he controls the cart. If the cart goes or not is actually under Lord Jagannath's control.
OK。那么然后呢，这个整个的这个 chariot 就整个这个车呢，都是被Sri Jagannath 所控制着的。然后这样呢，他就能够尽情的去看到所有的这些 Sankirtan。
So when Maharaj Prataparudra saw the Sankirtan, he was also astonished, and his love for Krishna was awakened.
那当Prataparudra 王看到所有的这些 Sankirtan 的上演的时候呢，他也感到非常的震惊。那么他对 Sri Krishna 的爱呢，也被唤醒了。
And the king could see how Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu was appearing in each of the 7 different groups of kirtan.
而且呢，国王他是能够看到，主 Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 他是如何同时的显现在这7个 Sankirtan 的队伍里的。
So the king mentioned to the man in charge of the temple, and he told him, he said, you know, see that? Lord Chaitanya's appear. He's there, and he's there. He's all these different places at the same time.
所以说呢，国王就问掌管庙宇的这位奉献者，他就说：“你看，Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 他在这儿，他在那儿，他怎么同时在所有的这些 Sankirtan 的队伍中？”
Of course, not everybody could see this. Only a few special devotees, like the king, were able to see this.
但是并不是所有的人都能够看到这个场景的，只有一些很特别的奉献者，比如说像国王能够看到这样的景象。
So they told the king, "You are very, very fortunate."
所以说呢，这个掌管庙的事务的这个奉献者就对国王说：“你真的是太幸运了。”
Only the king and the Bhattacharya, they were able to see these things.
因为只有国王还有 Bhattacharya 能够见到这样的场景。
Only the people who get the mercy of Krishna can understand these things.
只有得到Sri Krishna 的仁慈的人才能够理解当时发生的场景。
Even demigods like Lord Brahma cannot understand.
就连像主 Brahma 这样的半神人都无法理解。
So Lord Chaitanya had been very satisfied to see the king sweep the road.
所以说呢，Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 看到国王扫地，他感到很心满意足。
And because of his humility, Lord Chaitanya gave his mercy to the king.
那么就是因为国王有着这样的谦卑，所以呢，Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 就把仁慈给了这位国王。
And in this way, the king could see how Lord Chaitanya was taking part in Sankirtan in each of the 7 parties.
所以，国王他才能够看到Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 他同时参加了这7个 Sankirtan 队伍中的唱诵和跳舞。
So Lord Jagannath is the seer, And Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he's the dancer.
所以说呢，主 Jagannath 是观看者，而 Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 呢是舞蹈者。
But actually, Lord Caitanya is not different from Lord Jagannath.
但事实上呢 ，Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 和主 Jagannath 是没有区别的。
Lord Jagannath is one, but at the same time, he comes in many different forms.
主 Jagannath 他是就这么一位，但是与此同时呢，他又以多种的形式显现。
And by the mercy of Lord Caitanya, the king could understand. He was able to understand Lord Jagannath and Lord Caitanya, how they were actually the same.
那在 Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 的仁慈之下，使得这位国王他能够明白，主 Jagannath 和主 Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 他们俩是没有区别的。
But Lord Jagannath is enjoying the activities of Lord Caitanya, seeing him dance in the kirtan.
但是呢，主 Jagannath 他是在享受着Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 所从事的活动，也就是他在享受着看着 Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 在 kirtan 中跳舞。
And Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu is enjoying Lord Jagannath's pastime of leaving his palace, leaving his temple in Dwarka and coming to Vrindavan on his chariot.
而主 Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is doing the pastime,
Yeah, both are pleased. Lord Jagannath's doing his pastime, Caitanya Mahaprabhu is doing his pastime.
Yeah, 然后呢，就是 Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 和主 Jagannath 他们俩人都非常的开心，他们俩人都在各自的上演着他们的这个逍遥时光。那么主 Jagannath 呢，也是坐在他的弹车之上，上演着从Dwarka 离开，然后呢前往 Vrindavan 的这段逍遥时光。
Yeah, right. So they're performing their pastimes for their pleasure as well as the pleasure of the devotees.
所以说呢，他们为了自己的快乐在上演着这个逍遥时光，但是呢，他们这么做也是为了要让他的奉献者们快乐。
Just like Lord Caitanya, his pastime being in each of the kirtan parties.
那么就好像是 Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 他所上演的这逍遥时光时，他同时出现在了每一个 kirtan 的队伍里。
So the king, he could understand that this is all Lord Chaitanya's pastimes.
所以说呢，国王他是能够明白的，所有这一切都是主 Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 就是主的逍遥时光的展示。
And Lord Jagannath stopping the chariot, not rolling, the chariot's not moving, because Lord Jagannath, he's enjoying the pastime, he's watching the kirtan.
然后呢，主 Jagannath 呢，他就让这个车就停了下来，这车呢就不动了。为什么呢？是因为他要享受，要看一看 kirtan 的上演。
So the king wasn't able to directly meet Lord Caitanya, but he was indirectly he got the mercy of Lord Caitanya.
所以说，国王他虽然说没有直接的见到 Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu，但是呢，他却间接的获得了 Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 的仁慈。
Because Lord Caitanya wants to play the part of a very strict sannyasi. He wants to teach everyone what's the proper behavior for a sannyasi.
因为 Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 呢，他要扮演一位很严格的 sannyasi 的角色，他要教导世人一位严格的 sannyasi 的行为举止应该是如何的。
And the king's only interest, usually most kings, their only interest is in money and women.
而作为大部分的国王呢，他们只是对钱和对女人感兴趣。
But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was afraid of both money and women.
但是 Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 呢，他既害怕钱，也害怕女人。
So that's why Lord Chaitanya didn't want to meet the king.
所以说呢 ，Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 就不想见国王。
But indirectly, by the mercy of Krishna, the king was able to understand the activities of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu.
但是呢，通过间接的方式，这个国王他就能够理解Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 的行为。
And sometimes we want to show Lord Chaitanya as the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
那有的时候呢，我们就想展示Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu他是至尊人格守神。
And sometimes want to show him as a devotee.
但有的时候呢，就是我们想展示的他是一位奉献者。
So it's mysterious and it can only be understood by pure devotees.
所以呢，这其实是很玄妙的，只有纯粹的奉献者才能够理解到这一点。
So Bhattacharya and the other devotees are very happy to see the king get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya.
Bhattacharya 和所有的其他的奉献者们，看到国王得到了Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 的仁慈，都感到很开心。
So Lord Chaitanya performed his pastimes for some time, and he got other people to dance. Different people take turns to dance.
然后Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 呢，就让这个逍遥时光以这样的方式展示了一段时间。然后呢，他又让其他的人也开始跳舞。
Sometimes he would appear in one form, sometimes he'd take a different form.
有的时候呢，他会以一种形象显现；有的时候呢，他又会展现为另外一个形象。
And Krishna would forget who he actually is.
那么 Krishna 呢，会忘记他到底是谁。
So, Lord Chaitanya, by his mystic power, he was showing himself in the different kirtan parties.
那么Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 在他的玄秘力量下呢，他就会把自己展示在不同的各个 kirtan 的队伍中。
So the pure devotees, they could understand that this is the internal potency of Lord Krishna.
纯粹的奉献者能够明白，这是 Krishna 的内在能量的展示。
The internal potency arranges everything.
因为是内在能量在安排着所有的一切。
The external potency means the material energy.
外在能量也就意味着是物质能量。
And it will act only after we make great endeavors.
The first part.
It will act, it will take effect. The material energy will come into effect only after we make great efforts.
对，就只有当我们费了好大劲之后，这个外在能量它才会起效。
Everything happens by the will of Krishna.
因为所有的一切全部都是在Sri Krishna 的意愿之下才会发生的。
Sometimes by the internal potency, things will happen very easily, very quickly.
但是有的时候呢，就是在内在能量的驱使之下呢，这个事情它就会非常容易，而且是会很迅速的发生的。
And other times, by the arrangement of Krishna, even things which are not very difficult, but not very convenient, sometimes Krishna will arrange that it can be happen. It will all happen very easily.
那有的时候呢，就这个事情它看起来好像挺难的，而且呢也不是那么的容易做到。但是呢，在Sri Krishna 的意愿之下呢，就会让这件事情挺容易的就这么发生了。
So it's all the arrangement of Lord Krishna.
所以呢，所有的一切都是主 Krishna 的安排。
Just like when Lord Krishna was in Vrindavan, sometimes he would perform Rasa Lila and other pastimes.
那比如说，有的时候是 Krishna 在Vrindavan的时候呢，他就会上演 Rasa Lila 以及其他的逍遥时光。
Just like Krishna could appear with many different gopis dancing with them, Lord Chaitanya could appear in the different Sankirtan parties.
那么就好像当Sri Krishna 在和 gopi 们跳 Rasa 之舞的时候，他可以展现为和所有的 gopi 们在跳舞。同样的，Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 呢，他可以展现在每一个这个 kirtan 的队伍中和大家在一起。
So Lord Chaitanya could only be seen by the pure devotees.
所以呢，Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 呢，他只能够被纯粹的奉献者能够见到。
In the same way, when Lord Krishna was dancing, each of the gopis, they were thinking, Krishna is dancing with me.
所以说呢，同样 当 Sri Krishna 在和每一位 Gopi 在跳舞的时候，那每一位 Gopi 都在想 Krishna 只是在和我跳舞。
So Krishna arranges these things for the pleasure of devotees.
那所以说呢 ，Krishna 他就是为了要让他的奉献者开心，所以呢，他才会做这样的安排。
But the king was able to, although the king was not able to meet Lord Caitanya directly, he could see Lord Caitanya in the kirtan, dancing in the kirtan.
所以说呢，国王他虽然说不能够直接的见到Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu，但是呢，他却能够在这些唱诵的队伍中看到Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu在队伍中跳舞。
And he could see him in all the different kirtan parties, the 7 parties.
而且呢，他可以在这7个队伍中同时看到Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu。
So we can understand the king was really a pure devotee.
那所以呢，我们就能够理解这位国王他真的是一位纯粹的奉献者。
So Lord Caitanya was dancing in great ecstasy, and all the people were feeling the wave of love of Krishna.
那所以说Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu呢，他是在极乐中跳舞，所有的人他们都能够感到 Krishna 所给予的爱之波。
So Lord Jagannath was brought onto his chariot, and Lord Caitanya brought all the devotees in front of the chariot, and they began to dance in ecstasy.
主Jagannath呢，因为已经被抬上了战车，他的这个车子。然后Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu呢，就把所有的奉献者都给集结在了车子的前面，然后呢，开始在极乐中跳舞。
So while they're going to pull the chariot now, they're going to pull the chariot from the big temple, which is like Dwarka, and they're going to pull it down the road to the Gundicha temple, which is like Vrindavan.
所以现在呢，就是这个车子因为已经在路上了，他们现在呢就要开始要拖动这个车子，把车子从加更的庙，也就是像 Dwarka，把它一直拖到 Gundicha， 也就是 Vrindavan。
So Lord Caitanya was dancing, and he was encouraging all the other devotees to also dance.
然后呢，Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu在翩翩起舞，他也在鼓励着所有的奉献者们一起跳舞。
And when the devotees in the kirtan saw Lord Caitanya wanted to dance, then they all came together. So you had all the 7 kirtan parties all together around Lord Caitanya.
所有的这个，因为奉献者们看到Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu想要跳舞，所以呢，这7个 kirtan 的这个队伍呢，就全部都聚集在了一起，和Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu在一起了。
And Lord Caitanya, when he would dance, he would like to jump, and he would jump very high.
当Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu在跳舞的时候呢，他是喜欢跳起来的，然后呢，他会跳得很高。
So they had devotees like Swarup Damodar. They brought him there to help to take care of Lord Caitanya, because when he would jump so high, he would crash to the ground.
所以呢，大家就赶紧找到了 Swarup Damodar， 然后呢，把他给请到Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 的身边来保护他。因为当Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 跳得很高的时候，他会摔倒在地上，然后这样他可能就会伤到他自己。
And so all the devotees were chanting and dancing with Lord Caitanya, and they would run also, because sometimes the chariot would go very fast, and they would run, and they would run very fast.
然后呢，这个奉献者们就一起跟着唱诵着，跟着跳舞，一起这个跳舞。但有的时候呢，他们也会跑，原因就是由于这个车子在被拖动的时候会拖得很快，会跑得很快，所以呢，他们就必须要跑着才能跟上。
Remember, there's no brakes on that chariot. The chariot's coming. There's no brakes. You have to run. You just keep out the way.
然后大家要记得，这车子上是没有制动装置的。就这车子，它只要一拖起来、一跑起来的话呢，它是停不下来的，所以我们就只能跟着跑。
So Lord Caitanya, before they began the pulling, the Lord Caitanya came before Lord Jagannath, and he folded his hands, and he offered prayers to the deities.
当他们 before they pulling the car, right? Before.
This is, yeah, before they actually start the procession.
OK， 就是当这个游行队伍开动之前，就这车子还没有拖起来之前呢，Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu先站到这个车子的面前，然后双手合十的向主 Jagannath 献上祷文。
So these are prayers which we should learn. They help us how to worship Lord Jagannath. How should we pray to Lord Jagannath? We can learn from Lord Caitanya.
那Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu向主 Jagannath 献上的这个祷文，我们应该认真研习的，因为我们通过Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu来学到我们如何向主 Jagannath 祈祷。
So the first prayer which Lord Caitanya offered, I think many of you know.
那主 Caitanya Mahaprabhu 首先献上的祷文，这首祷文我相信大家很多人都应该了解，都应该知道。
Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagad Hitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namah. That means the meaning, we'll have the meaning that we want to offer our obeisances to Lord Krishna. He's the deity. He's the deity of all the cows and the brahmanas.
我们想向主 Krishna 顶礼，他是所有的。
He's a deity for all the brahmanas.
Yeah, 他是所有的婆罗门们的神祇。
And he's the well-wisher of the cows and the brahmanas.
而且呢，他是所有的乳牛以及婆罗门们的祝愿者。
And he's always benefiting the whole world.
而且呢，他永远都在注意于整个世界。
So I want to offer my obeisances to the personality of Godhead, who's known as Krishna and Govinda.
所以说呢，我想向以 Krishna 和 Govinda 为著称的至尊人格守神献上我的顶礼。
So this is a nice prayer which we often offer. Sometimes when we're offering food to Krishna, we will offer this prayer.
那所以呢，这是一段非常美妙的祷文，我们经常会献上这段祷文。有的时候，当我们在供奉食物的时候，我们也会献上这段祷文。
Then now there's another prayer. This prayer is what we can say in the morning when we wake up.
那然后还有一段祷文，这祷文呢是在清晨的时候，当我们醒过来的时候，我们可以献上的祷文。
In the Gurukula, when they wake the children up in the morning, the Prabhupada said we should use this prayer.
在功课学校里的时候呢，舍爸爸说，在清晨我们就应该用这个祷文来唤醒孩子们。
So this prayer is from the Srimad Bhagavatam. It comes at the end of the 10th canto.
那么这首祷文呢是来自于圣典不达瓦坛第10篇的末篇的最后的祷文。
And it's a summary of Lord Krishna's pastimes.
那它呢就概述了Sri Krishna 的逍遥时光。
Jayati Jayati Devo Devaki Nandanaya So Jayati Jayati Krishna Vrishne Vamsha Pradipa Jayati Jayati Mega Shamala Komalango Jayati Jayati Prithvi Varanasho Mukunda. Right? So all glories unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
一切的荣耀都归于至尊人格守神。
He is known as the son of Devaki.
他是 Devaki 的儿子。
And he is the light of the dynasty of Vrishni.
他是 Vrishni 族的光芒。
And his bodily luster is like that of a new cloud.
他的身体的光晕就好像是一朵新云。
And his body is as soft as a lotus flower.
他的身体有如一朵莲花般柔软。
And he appears on this planet to deliver the world.
他展现于这个星球是为了要拯救整个世界。
He saves the world from the demons.
他把这个世界从恶魔的手中救出。
And he can give liberation to everyone.
而且他能够使所有的人得到解脱。
And then there's another verse
还有另外一个事件。
which we're supposed to say before we do puja every time.
那么这个事件呢，是每一次当我们在进行 puja 神像崇拜之前要说的事件。
Because we're always in bodily consciousness, so we have to change our consciousness from thinking I'm the body, we have to think I'm a soul.
因为呢，我们总是处在躯体化概念中，所以呢，我们就必须要改变我们的知觉。我们不要觉得我们是这具躯体，我们应该认为我们是这个灵魂，我们是灵魂。
So this verse is help. If we meditate on this verse, it will help us to understand that I'm not the body.
所以，如果我们要是能够冥想这个世界的话呢，就能够帮助我们，去了解我们并不是这具躯体。
Naham vipro na chanarapatir na pivaishyo na sudro naham varni na chagrehapatir na vanisto yatirva kintu projanna kila parmananda purnamritadber gopi bhartu pada kamala or dasa dasa anudasa. Right? So that last line very well known. Gopi bhartu pada kamala or dasa anudas. That we are all servants of the gopis.
这最后这一句是非常的著名的，它的意思呢，就是我们大家都是 gopi 的仆人。
So that verse says, I'm not a brahmana, I'm not a kshatriya, I'm not a vaishya or a sudra.
那这里面这个事件里面讲到了，我不是 brahmana， 我也不是 kshatriya， 我也不是 vaishya， 我也不是 sudra。
And I'm not a brahmachari, and I'm not a grihasta, and I'm not a vanaprastha or a sannyasi.
我也不是 brahmachari， 我也不是grihasta， 我也不是 vanapasta， 我也不是 sannyasi。
I am just simply the servant of the servant of the servant of the lotus feet of Krishna.
我仅仅是主 Krishna 的莲花族的仆人的仆人的仆人。
And Krishna is the maintainer of the gopis.
而 Krishna 呢是 gopi 们的维系者。
And he's like an ocean of nectar.
他的 Krishna 有如蜜露之洋。
He is the cause of transcendental bliss.
他使我们得到超然的极乐的原因。
So Lord Caitanya would recite these different verses from the scriptures to Lord Jagannath.
所以呢，Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu呢，就向主 Jagannath 诵念着在经典中的所有的这些祷文。
And he would offer his obeisances to all the devotees.
而且呢，他向所有的奉献者们顶拜。
And all the devotees would offer prayers to Lord Caitanya.
那所有的这些奉献者们呢，也向Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu献上祷文。
So when Lord Caitanya was dancing, he would dance so fast. He'd be moving like he would appear like a wheel.
那所以当时 Caitanya Mahaprabhu 在跳舞的时候呢，他舞动的这个动作是非常迅速的，他展现的那种感觉就好像是飞轮一样。
And he would make a sound that would be like thunder.
而且他所发出的这个声音就好像霹雷一般。
Just like you have some hot cinder, some hot piece of coal come out of the fire, and if you whirl it around, then it appears like a circle of fire.
那就好像是这个从火里面捞出来的这个还燃着火的这个煤一样。那如果你要是把这个煤很快的在地上打转的话，这个煤它展现出来就好像是一团火一样。
So Lord Caitanya would be dancing like that.
所以呢，是Caitanya Mahaprabhu就像那样的这种气势在跳舞。
He would be like a circle of fire.
所以呢，他就像是在转动的火一样。
And wherever he would step while dancing, the whole earth would begin to tilt. It would all move.
而且呢，就是当他跳舞的那个地方呢，就是当他在跳舞的时候，整个的这个地球都好像是静止了，都不动了。
And he would show all the symptoms of transcendental love, the bodily hairs standing on end, and a lot of perspiration coming from his body.
而且呢，他会展示出各种各样的极乐的征兆，比如说他的这个身体上的毛发全部都竖了起来。 以及呢，在他身上就会大汗淋漓。
And sometimes he would cry, and his skin would change colors, and he would become very pink-colored.
有的时候呢，他会大哭，而且呢，他身体的肤色也会发生变化。有时候他就会展现成是粉红色的颜色。
And sometimes he would appear to be helpless, and another time he'd appear to be very proud.
他有的时候呢，展现出来是非常无助的状态；有的时候呢，又展现出来非常的骄傲。
And sometimes he's dancing, he would crash, he'd fall on the ground.
而且有的时候，当他在跳舞的时候呢，他一下子就会瘫倒下来，然后呢，倒在地上。
And when he fell on the ground, then suddenly he'd just roll on the ground.
当他倒在地上的时候呢，他在地上打滚。
So it was like a golden mountain was rolling on the ground.
就好像是一座金山在地上打滚一般。
Because Lord Chaitanya is a golden color.
因为Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu他是金色的、红色的。
So when he's rolling on the ground, it was like a part of the golden mountain had fallen down.
所以说呢，当他在地上在打滚的时候，就好像是一座掉在地上的青山在滚动。
Lord Nityananda would walk with Lord Chaitanya and try to take care of him. And when Lord Chaitanya would jump high, Lord Nityananda would put his arms out.
那Sri Caitanya Sri Nityananda Prabhu 呢，会走在主 Caitanya Mahaprabhu 的身边保护他。那么当Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu 跳得很高的时候呢，Sri Nityananda Prabhu 他就会伸出手来要保护他，要接住他。
And Advaita Acharya, he would walk behind Lord Chaitanya and he would just shout out, Haribo, Haribo.
然后呢，Advaita Acharya 呢就会走在Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu 的身后，然后大声的呼唤着 Haribo, Haribo.
So many people all wanted to come and touch the body of Lord Chaitanya. They wanted to take the dust from his feet. So the devotees had to protect him.
因为所有的这些旁边的这些人们都想要接近Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu，想要触碰他的躯体，以及想要得到他莲花足上的尘土，所以呢，他身边的这些奉献者们就必须要保护主 Chaitanya。
So they made 3 circles around Lord Chaitanya.
所以奉献者们就在Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu的周围围起了3个圈。
So Lord Nityananda, he was in the first circle because he's very big and strong. He's not different from Lord Balaram.
主 Nityananda 呢，他就是在最里边的这一圈里面，因为主 Nityananda 他和主 Balaram 是没有任何区别的，所以呢，他是非常魁梧的。
Yeah, Lord Nityananda was very tall, very strong, powerfully built.
所以呢，主 Nityananda 他身高很高，而且呢，身形非常的魁梧。
So he was in the first circle. Then there was another circle around Lord Chaitanya. The second circle was with devotees like Govinda, Lord Chaitanya's servant, and his other servant Kashishwara.
然后呢，在Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu 的第2圈保护他的这个奉献者呢，比如像 Govinda， 他的秘书，他的这个仆人，还有 Kashishwara， 也在第2圈保护他。
And then in the third circle, the king was there with all of his assistants.
然后这第3圈的保护者呢，就是国王和他所有的助手们。
So there was a nice incident took place. The king was watching Lord Chaitanya.
那这人就有一段很美妙的故事，就是当时呢，这位国王呢，他就聚精会神地看着主 Chaitanya。
And the king was with one of his secretaries, a man whose name was Harichandan.
然后当时呢，国王和他的一个助手在一起，他的这个助手的名字呢是 Harichandan。
So the king was watching Lord Chaitanya, and he could feel very ecstatic seeing Lord Chaitanya.
那么国王呢，他就使劲看着Sri Chaitanya，而且呢，当他看着Sri Chaitanya的时候呢，就感受到了他的一种极乐之情。
But Srivas Thakur, he was standing in front of the king, and Srivas Thakur was also ecstatic watching Lord Chaitanya.
但是呢，Srivas Thakur 呢，他就站在国王的前面，然后呢，Srivas Thakur 呢，他也是满怀极乐的在看着国王。
So the king's servant, this Harichandan, he saw Srivas Thakur standing in front of the king. So he put his hand on his shoulder and he was trying to get him to move out of the way to let the king see.
然后呢 ，Harichandan 就是国王的这个他的仆人，因为呢他看到Srivas sorry 啊对头 Srivas 对，然后呢因为他看到这个 Srivas 站在国王的前面看主。就挡着了国王，所以说呢 ，Harichandan 他就把他的手放在了 Srivas 的这个肩膀上，意思就是示意他要躲开，别挡着国王看 Sri Caitanya。
But Srivas Thakur, he was so absorbed in watching Lord Caitanya, he couldn't understand why somebody kept touching him and pushing him.
但是呢，因为 Srivas 他是完全沉醉在看主的这种状态下的，所以他就不明白为什么老有人一直在。碰他，然后呢，要把他给推开。
And then the king's servant got impatient, and he started to push him again and again.
那然后呢，这会儿这个仆人呢就觉得非常不耐烦了，所以他就不断的使劲的在推动着 Srivas。
And Srivas Thakur, he turned around and he saw this man pushing him, so Srivas slapped him.
What him?
Srivas slapped him.
Oh, slapped him. OK， 所以呢，这个Srivas 他就转头就看见这个一直在不断推他的这个人，所以 Srivas 一下子就扇了Harichandan一巴掌。
So when this Harichandan got slapped, then he became angry.
所以挨了一巴掌的Harichandan 他就生气了。
And he was going to say something heavy. He was going to speak some bad words to Srivas Thakur.
所以呢，他就准备要向Srivas Thakur骂粗口了。
But the king had been watching, and the king stopped him.
但是呢，国王因为一直在看着这个景象，所以呢，国王就阻止了他。
And the king said, "You're very fortunate because you've been touched by the hand of Srivas Thakur."
然后国王就对 Harichandan 说：“你真的太幸运了，因为你被 Srivas Thakur 的手碰过了。”
The king said, "I'm not so fortunate. You should feel grateful to him."
然后国王就说：“我就没有你这么幸运，你应该对他心存感恩之心。”
So this is very nice pastime. This is the loving dealings with the devotees.
那所以呢，这些都是非常美妙动人的小时光，这是奉献者之间的充满了爱的互动。
So sometimes we get angry at people. We may be in the kirtan, somebody pushes us, or somebody stands on our foot. We get angry.
那我们有的时候在 kirtan 里面的时候呢，可能有人可能会因为推我们一下或者踩了我们一脚，我们就会很生气。
And sometimes people we offer water after the arti. They come around with the water and put the water on people's head.
那有的时候就是在这个 arti 的时候，因为供完水、献完水之后，要把这个水给洒在奉献者的头上。
And sometimes, the devotee comes, he puts the water instead of putting on your head, he puts it in your face.
然后，所以有的时候呢，奉献者就是洒水的那个奉献者，他没有把这个水洒在你的头上，而把水洒在你的脸上。
So what to do? Should we get angry? Grab the water, throw the water over their face?
那我们是不是应该生气呢？我们是不是应该抓起这个水，然后呢甩在他们的脸上呢？
And we have to learn to be tolerant.
所以说呢，我们必须要学着容忍。
And just like here, the king is telling his servant, he said, "You're so fortunate that you should be thankful to him."
那么就像这位国王对他的仆人说：“你应该觉得自己非常的幸运，你应该对他心存感恩之心。”
So somebody throws the water over us. It's the water which has been offered to Krishna. We're very lucky.
所以说，如果要是有人把献给 Sri Krishna 的这个水没有洒在我们头上，而洒在我们的脸上的话呢，我们也应该觉得我们是非常幸运的，因为这个水是供奉给 Sri Krishna 的水。
So everyone was so happy to see Lord Caitanya and dancing, and Lord Jagannath was also very happy to see Lord Caitanya do all this dancing.
那所以当时呢，在场的所有人都特别的开心，能够看到Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu的舞姿。那么当时呢，主Jagannath也是非常开心的，因为他能够看到Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu如此曼妙的跳舞。
And to watch all the dancing, Lord Caitanya stopped the chariot. He made the chariot stop, and he would just stand there and watch the dancing of Lord Caitanya.
而且呢，就是为了能够更好的看到Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu跳舞，所以呢，主Jagannath他就让他这个车子就停了下来，就是让车子停在那儿，静静的看着Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu跳舞。
Okay, are there any questions today?
Yes, let me see. There is a question. Yes, Marge. 现在Marge说要给大家来回答问题了哈，所以大家如果有问题的话就可以提了。这第一个问题是来自于小普的 Hare Krishna 顶拜 Guru 翻译和所有的聚会的奉献者，礼拜您。请问 Guru Maharaj 有意钻到弹车下，让弹车压过身体的奉献者，会直接达到完美回到主的身边吗？如何理解这种做法？ Hare Krishna, please accept my venerable obeisances to Maharaj and to all the devotees. My question is that for those person who are purposely to go under the wheel of the chariot and let the chariot to pass through him or her, for this type of passing away, will this devotee will go back to the Lord immediately after this, and how to understand this way of action?
Yes, we should understand nobody goes back to Godhead by committing suicide.
就我们要明白一点哈，就是没有任何一个人会通过自杀而回到手神身边去的。
Actually, we should understand to put yourself under the chariot wheel of Lord Jagannath is not very good at all, because it makes it a bumpy ride for Lord Jagannath.
实际上呢，我们应该明白哈，就是把这个躯体给置身在主Jagannath的弹车之下，这其实并不是一个很好的作为，因为就是你的这个身体压在这个车底下的时候，是会让主Jagannath的这个车子变得颠簸的，那么主Jagannath就不舒服了。
So we have sometimes it happens devotees give up their bodies, but it's not proper.
那我们其实是有过一些这个情况，就是这个奉献者他们放弃了自己的躯体，但这并不是恰当的做法。
It's described in incidents in the Caitanya Caritamrta. One time, Sanatana Goswami, he had a disease on his body. He had many sores, and they were giving a lot of poison. It was very painful for him.
那在 Caitanya Caritamrta 永恒的 Caitanya 经里面就有这么一段故事的记载。那么有一次呢 ，Srila Sanatana Goswami 他的这个身体因为感染了这个病症，所以呢就使得他的身体有很多地方都长了疮，然后这个疮呢就让他感到很痛苦、很难受。
So every day Lord Caitanya would come to see Sanatan, and he would embrace Sanatan, and Sanatan felt very bad.
每天呢，Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 呢都会去看望 Srila Sanatana Goswami， 然后呢每天都会拥抱他。那这样呢就会使 Sanatana Goswami 感到非常的尴尬。
So Sanatana Goswami thought, I should give up my body.
所以呢 ，Sanatana Goswami 就觉得我就应该放弃我的躯体。
But Lord Caitanya understood, and Lord Caitanya told him, he said, no, this is not right.
但是呢，Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 明白他的想法，所以就对他说：“你不能这么做，因为这么做不对。”
He said, this body belongs to Lord Krishna, and it's meant for the service of Lord Krishna.
他说呢，因为这具躯体呢是属于主 Krishna 的，他的目的呢是为了要为主 Krishna 做服务。
And to give up your body, this is actually a sinful activity.
所以说，你就是这么自行的了断这个躯体，其实是一种罪行。
And you can become a ghost in your next life.
这样的话会使你的下一世成为一个鬼魂的。
People who commit suicide, they're given the body of a ghost.
所以呢，自杀的人， 下一世就只能成为个鬼魂儿。
You don't get a gross body. You just remain in a subtle body.
因为自杀的人呢，他就没有办法得到一个粗糙的躯体，他就只能让自己处在这个精微的躯体里面了。
And then another time, Raghunath Goswami went to Vrindavan, and he was thinking he was going to throw himself off the Govardhan hill.
那还有一次呢，Raghunath Goswami 他来到Vrindavan，然后呢，他想着要从戈尔丹山上跳下去，了结自己的生命。
But he was instructed by the devotees that this is not the proper way.
但是当时呢，奉献者就训示他说，这方法不行，这不是恰当的做法。
You may be in a painful condition, you may be in a difficult situation, but we should never think to give up the material body by our own desire.
那么也许可能你是处在一个非常艰难的、痛苦的一个境地，但是呢，我们不能够因为要满足我们私自的这个欲望，所以呢，就自行的了断我们的这个生命。
This body is it belongs to Krishna. It's given to us by Krishna, and when Krishna is ready, he will take it from us.
因为呢，就我们这具躯体呢，其实是 Krishna 赐给我们的。那么，当 Krishna 他想要把这个躯体拿走的时候呢，他也会把这个躯体从我们这儿拿走。
So it's a great opportunity. We're very fortunate to have the human form of life.
事实上呢，我们非常幸运，我们能够得到有人类的躯体的机会。
We should make proper use of it in the service of Krishna.
所以说呢，我们就应该让这个躯体恰当的去为 Krishna 做服务。
Yes.
Yeah. 下面这个问题是来自于大死的，好死不如赖活。So it's better to have a miserable life than a glory death.
A gory death. Yeah, horrible death. Yeah.
No. She's saying that it's 好死不如赖活。So it's better to have a miserable life than have a glory way of death.
Yes, the suffering is not eternal.
因为这个赖活就是这个痛苦啊，它其实并不是永恒的状态。
Just like Sanatan, I was telling about Sanatana Goswami, that he had a disease, his body was having so many sores. But Lord Caitanya came, Lord Caitanya embraced him, and his body was completely rejuvenated.
那么就好像Sanatana Goswami，那他呢是生病了，他的身体上全部都是疮，然后呢他很痛苦，但是呢Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu来了，Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu拥抱了他，从而使他又重新焕发了他有这个像新生一样的身体。
So we may have some painful condition, we may have some unfortunate situation, different things happen to us which are not very pleasant. We have to tolerate.
所以说呢，我们可能会有一些这个痛苦的状况，然后不如意的事情呢也会发生在我们的身上，但是呢，我们就要学着去容忍。
And we should know, just like the winter and summer seasons, they come and go, so the same way, our happiness and distress will come and go.
因为我们要知道，就好像是这个冬夏季节的交换一样，同样我们的快乐和痛苦也会时来时去的。
Okay.
Yeah. Next question from Sugita Sangamadaji. 顶拜咕噜的莲花族，感谢翻译，谢谢您。Hare Krishna， 请问咕噜，过去的气绝的人去森林修行，他们离开躯体的时候是回家吗？还是在森林里最后躯体被动物吃掉 ？Okay. Guru Maharaj, please accept my venerable obeisances to your lotus feet. My question is that in the old days, for those renunciate because they went to the forest to practice their austerity, But at the moment when they leave their body, do they go back home to leave their body, or they just leave their body in the forest to have the animals in the forest to eat their body?
Yes. Well, they don't go back home. After they leave home, they don't go back home.
那首先呢，就是在他们离开家之后呢，他们就不会再回家了。
They leave their body in the forest.
所以呢，他们是会在森林里面离开躯体。
Now, maybe you've read in Srimad Bhagavatam about different kings. They would go to the forest, and usually when they go to the forest, they go with their wife.
所以我们可能在圣典博达瓦坛里面就读到了有很多到森林里面去隐修的国王们，但有的时候呢，这些国王们是和他们的妻子们一起去到森林里的。
So the husband dies, and then the wife will build a fire, and she'll put their husband's body on the fire, and she'll burn the husband's body, and at the same time she would enter into the fire and give up her body and die with her husband.
那然后呢，就是当丈夫死了以后呢，这个妻子她就会点起火，然后呢，让这个火烧掉她的死去的丈夫的躯体，然后她自己呢也会走入火中，以这样的方式，放弃自己的躯体。
So this was the system, but in the Kali Yuga, this is not the system. This was in other ages.
但是呢，这个是在其他的年代所运行的方式，在卡利年代就没有这么做。
But Prabhupada said, he remembers, when he was in his time, he had seen there was a woman, her husband died, and when they were cremating the husband's body, she entered into the fire and she gave up her own body.
但是沙爸爸就说，在他小的时候呢，他还记得有这么一件事儿，就是丈夫死了以后，在烧这个丈夫的时候，这个丈夫的妻子也就走进了烧丈夫的这个火里面，以这样的方式，陪葬了，就是离开了自己的躯体，离开了。
The idea is that the wife wants to follow the husband to the next life.
那这么做的这个用意呢，就是这位妻子她希望能够和她的丈夫一起去到下一次投生之中。The next question.
Okay.
The next question from 小蒲，主 Caitanya Mahaprabhu 私密地给予了国王仁慈，让他看到了主上演的神秘的逍遥时光。请问 Guru Maharaj， 如果我们得到了 Guru 或年长奉献者比较私密的仁慈，能分享给其他的人吗？Lord Chaitanya give the very confidential mercy to the king. In this case, to make the king actually can take the side of the very confidential pastime of the Lord. So my question is that if we got some very confidential mercy from our guru or from the senior devotees, is that proper for us to share it with the others?
Not while the guru is still on the planet.
就是当 guru 还在世的话呢，就不能这么做。
Wait until the guru departs. Then you may like to share.
就是等到 Guru 离世之后，也许可能你就可以那会儿你可以来分享了。
Okay.
Yes. 下面这个问题哈是来自于石曼。Hare Krishna， 顶拜 Maharaj， 我的家族中有一位长辈是自杀离开躯体的，还能通过puja祭祀活动帮助他的灵魂吗？感恩。Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. In my family, one of our seniors leave the bodies to the committed suicide. So, if it's okay to perform some puja or some sacrifice for him to help his soul.
Yes, you can do something.
可以做一些事情。
Yeah. But the best thing you can do is for yourself to become a pure devotee.
但是呢，您能为他做的最好的事情呢，就是您自己成为一名纯粹的奉献者。
And if you become a pure devotee, because that person was connected with you in the same family, he will get benefit.
那因为您要成为一名纯粹的奉献者的话，因为您这是您家的亲戚，也就是说跟您是有关联的，所以呢，对他来说就很有益了。
But sometimes what people do, they do things like they will go to Gaya, and in Buddha Gaya, there's a place, there's the footprint of Lord Vishnu, and they will do a special puja there for the departed soul.
但是呢，这个在印度还有一些人，他们的做法呢，就是他们会去到嘎雅这个地方，然后呢，在 Buddha Gaya 这个地方呢，有一个Sri Vishnu 主 Vishnu 他留下的足印的这个地方。然后呢，人们就会在这个地方为家族里面曾经就是过世的这个灵魂去做一些超度的仪式。
Just like Lord Caitanya went there to Gaya, he wanted to do Shrad for his father. After his father died, Lord Caitanya said, I'm going to Gaya, I'm going to offer Shrad for my father, for the soul of my father.
就像这个Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu，他就去到嘎雅去为他的父亲做 Shraddha 的这个仪式。那他就说，我要去那个地方，然后呢，为我的父亲做这个就是祭祀的这个仪式，Shraddha 的仪式。
So you can also do something like that. You can, if you have that desire. But I'd say the best thing you can do is simply perform devotional service.
所以说，如果你要是有这样的愿望的话呢，你也可以做类似于这样的事情。但是呢，最好的事情就是，最有益的一件事情，其实就是你努力的做纯粹的奉爱服务。
And simply by you doing devotional service, that soul who was originally with you in the same family, they will get some benefit.
所以说呢，就是因为您从事这个奉爱服务，使得和您在一起的这个灵魂以及您的家人们都会获益。
Okay, yeah.
Yes. OK， 下面这个问题，大四的问题，进入师徒传系的标志是什么？是第一次启迪吗 ？What's the sign to enter in? What's the sign to enter the disciplic succession? Is that the first initiation?Is that the first initiation means that we are actually in the parampara?
Yes, that's right.
是的，是的。
The first initiation is the most important.
这个第一次启迪是最重要的。
The first initiation connects you to the disciplic succession.
因为呢，是第一次启迪，就把你和这个师徒传承就给联系了在一起。
And the first initiation gives you the holy name. It's the holy name which delivers you back to Godhead.
而且呢，第一次启迪呢，就赐给了您圣名，而是圣名把您能够给送回到灵性守神的身边去的。
So the first initiation is much more important than the second.
所以说呢，一次启迪要比第二次启迪要重要的多得多。
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So that's everything, Maharaj. Oh no, there was one more from Beijing Center. Hare Krishna 顶拜咕噜和人即使死后变成另一个人身时，会对前世听到声音对梵文有记忆吗？比如听到梵文流泪，那么会对前世的气味有记忆吗？例如火祭的气味。感恩亲爱的 Gurudev。Hare Krishna, please accept my venerable obeisances. My question is that, 人即使在死后变成另外一个人是，另外一个 when a person died and incarnated into another life, will this person have any memory for the previous life? For example, have some memories about the sound of the Sanskrit. For example, sometimes when we heard the chanting of the Sanskrit verses, we started to shed tears. And also, do we also possibly to have some remembrance about the smell of the previous life? For example, the smell from the fire yagya. Thank you very much.
Well, some little children have memories from past lives.
那有一些小朋友，他们对前世是有印象的。
Right. These kind of things have been researched by some professors in Western universities, and they've recorded many incidents of young children having memories of their past life.
就是在西方的一些大学里的教授们，他们就对此进行了一番研究，然后呢，他们就记录了很多的这个小朋友对于前世有记忆的这些实录。
And for no apparent reason, they can remember everything. They will remember that in my past life, I was this man's wife, and these were my children.
然后呢，他们其实就是通过这个记忆，他们其实是能够记到很多事情的。他们会记到这个是我的丈夫，然后那是我的妻子，然后还有这些可能是我之前的孩子。
And so many incidents have been confirmed. The things which were told by the children were checked out, and they were found to be exactly true.
而且呢，就是他们所记来的这些事件。都被证实是真的，因为这些小朋友们，他们讲的这些话之后，他们就去按照这个小朋友说的这个话去验证，发现他们说的都是真的。
But usually, what happens as the children grow, they forget all of this.
但是呢，通常来说，就是当这个孩子在成长的这个过程中呢，他就会把所有的这些事都给忘了。
When they're young, like 4 or 5 years old, they can remember these things.
但是呢，当他们小的时候，比如说4、5岁的时候，他们能记得。
Not everybody, but some children.
但是并不是所有的小朋友都能记住，有一些孩子是能记住的。
But you say you're hearing the Sanskrit, and somebody hears the Sanskrit, brings tears to their eyes. That's not an indication. That is not an indication that you studied or that you were and had some connection with Sanskrit in previous life.
OK， 但是呢，您在这里面说，比如说听到梵文的世界会流泪啊，这些征兆，并不能说你在前世是和梵文有一些因缘的。
Yeah. You cannot, shedding tears. We don't know. Maybe is it just some sentiment? We don't know.
因为流眼泪这件事情就很难说了，因为有的时候我们流泪呢，可能就是因为这个情感到这儿了，所以我们就会流泪。
It can be ecstasy. It can be a type of ecstasy to shed tears. We heard about Lord Caitanya shedding tears.
然后还有这个流泪呢，它也可能是一种极乐的展示。我们也听到是 Caitanya Caritamrta 流泪。
But anyway, it's good that you have some attraction for these things. You have some attraction, some appreciation for hearing the Sanskrit verses recited.
但是呢，就是您对于这些事情表示出兴趣，表示被吸引是很好的。比如说，喜欢听梵文的念诵啊，就对这些事情被吸引是很好的。
And maybe you say you remember that the smell from the sacrificial fires is something like you're familiar. You're aware of it from a previous life.
而且呢，也许可能，比如说像您说，就是您会记得这个祭祀的时候的这个火的这个味道，让你想到也许可能在前世有这方面的关联。
But you don't want to worry too much about your past life. You want to think about now and the future.
但是呢，就是您不要过于的去琢磨，或者是去想着过去的生世都做了些什么。就我们现在更多的需要专注在此时现世是怎么回事儿。
If we say, oh, maybe in your past life you were a brahmana and you chanted so many Vedic mantras and you did so many yagyas and fire sacrifices.
那也许的人就会说啊，你前世是个婆罗门，然后呢，你做了很多的火祭，然后呢，你这个念诵了很多的经文，诵念了很多祷文。
But what is your position now in this life?
但是您现在的处置是什么呢？就在此生的生活是什么呢？
That's what we have to think about.
这个是我们应该去考虑的。
Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he said, forget about the past. That's finished with. Let it sleep.
Bhaktivinoda Thakur 就说呢，让我们忘记沉睡的过去。
And he said, don't dream about the future.
然后他还说呢，也不要梦想未来。
Live with times which are with you now.
而要让自己就活在此时当下的这个时刻。
And this is the way you'll make progress.
而这是你能够取得进步的方式。
So, sometimes people are very curious. They think about the past life, and past life I was there and I was doing this. Whatever, that's not important. We've had many lives in the past. Many births we've had.
所以有时候呢，人们他就特别的好奇，我上辈子都做了些什么，我的前世是什么？其实这都不重要，因为我们已经经历了好多的生世了。
Right. Krishna told Arjuna, many births both you and I have had, O Arjuna. I can remember all of them, but you cannot.
所以 Krishna 就对 Arjuna 说 ，Arjuna， 你和我都经历了很多的生世，但是我能记住所有的这些生世，而你却记不住了。
So in the past, we've had bodies like demigods, we've lived in the higher planets.
那所以在过去的这个生世里面，我们可能有这个半神人的躯体，我们生活在高等的星宿。
But in the past, we've also had bodies like trees and birds and animals.
但是呢，在过往的生世中，我们也有过像树啊、鸟啊，还有动物的生世。
Now we have the human body. We have the opportunity to develop Krishna consciousness.
而此时呢，我们有了人类的躯体，我们就得到了能够去发展、培养我们的 Krishna 知觉的机会。
So we have the greatest opportunity now in this human form of life in the association of devotees.
那所以说，我们现在呢，就有了最了不起的一个机会，因为我们现在处在了人类的这个身形之中，而且呢，我们有机会能够和奉献者联谊。
So we have to take full advantage of this.
所以呢，我们一定要完全的、好好的利用这个机会。
Okay, so that's how we should understand this.
所以呢，这个是我们应该理解的恰当的方式。
Right. Make the best use of this human life now to become Krishna conscious.
所以呢，我们应该是竭尽全力的去运用我们的人类的这一生的生世，然后呢，让自己变得具有 Krishna 知觉。
Give this life to Krishna.
就让我们把这一生献给 Krishna 吧。
We've already wasted so many other lives.
因为我们已经浪费了好多其他的生世了。
Make the best use of this life.
所以呢，我们就要尽量的最好的去运用我们这一生。
And that is done by taking full shelter of Lord Chaitanya's teachings.
那所以怎么做到呢？就能够完全的托庇在 Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu 的教导的保护之下。
Okay.
Yes, Marge.
So,
The next question. Sorry.
Another question?
Yeah, there were 1, 2, 3, 4. One more.
Well, it's already time. I think we have to stop. Do we? We can keep going?
Yesterday we have 10 minutes overtime. I think it's okay.
Okay.
But I tell you there are four questions here, so you can master the time. How long you want to answer each of the questions?
Okay, I thought that was the last question.
Okay. 顾主说他稍微超一点时啊，然后给大家把下面这个问题给回答完。这个问题呢是 Das 的问题。 但帕帕德说过，启迪后不服务还是没有进入到使徒传承。That said that, however, Srila Prabhupada said that after the first initiation, if we don't render any service, then we still not enter in the disciplic succession.
If we don't render any service, well, we're given initiation. It's an we have to keep up the vows at the time of initiation. We promise to chant.
但是呢，我们在启迪的时候呢，我们是发了誓的，我们是要承诺是要念诵的。
You may not be able to do much service. You may have a job. You may have a family. You cannot do very much. You may not even have a temple. You don't have an opportunity to do service.
也许可能呢，你因为有工作呀，然后有家庭要维系呀，然后你是没有办法做其他的更多的服务的，或者说呢，你也因为当地也没有庙，也没有办法去庙里面去做很多服务。
But you have to keep up the chanting. You have to keep up the vows, the 4 principles.
但是呢，你就必须要念诵，然后呢，必须要这个遵守这个规范原则。
Then you're connected.
那如果是这么做了的话呢，那也就意味着是连接着的。
Okay.
然后下面一个问题，小蒲，请问 Guru 主 Caitanya 向主 Jagannath 供奉的第一个祷文，我们只在供奉食物的时候用，其他的时候还有什么时候用吗？Guru Maharaj, the first prayer.
Yeah. Okay. I got it.
Okay.
The first prayer is for offering food. Some devotees when we offer food. The second prayer.
No, Maharaj. She is asking.
About the other. What are the other prayers for?
No. She is asking that for that first prayer, other than offer it while we are offering the food, any other opportunities for us to chant that prayer? The first prayer.
Well, you can just to glorify Krishna, to describe Krishna.
就是当你在描述 Krishna 在荣耀 Krishna 的时候，可以唱诵这个祷文。
Okay.
然后下面呢，这个启迪后念诵算不算服务？The Beijing Center asked that after we initiated chanting the holy name, isn't that counted as a service to the Lord?
Yes.
这个算服务。
Yes, chanting the holy name is the most important service.
对，因为呢，念诵圣名是最重要的服务。
It's a prayer, but it's also the answer to our prayers.
那么它是一种祷文，但是呢，它也是对我们的祈祷的回应。
So praying is one of the 9 kinds of devotional service.
所以说祈祷是这9项奉爱服务之一。
So we should chant, but we should chant without offense.
所以呢，我们应该念诵，但是我们是在没有冒犯的情况下去念诵的。
We should chant for the pleasure of Krishna.
所以呢，我们应该是为了 Krishna 的开心、高兴而念诵。
Okay.
下面一个问题是韩恒的问题。Hare Krishna 顶拜 Guru 翻译了所有的奉献者，顶拜您。请问 Guru， 一个因家人拖欠债款的奉献者，应该在灵性道路上以怎样的正确的心态来保持 Krishna 知觉呢？感恩您。This devotee she is asking that for a devotee but whose family member owns some big money to the others. So for this devotee, what is the right mentality to be kept to maintain his or her Krishna consciousness?
Her family members owe money.
Yes, to the others, owe a debt.
Well, if she's with the family, then she has maybe some responsibility to help to pay off the debt.
就如果这个奉献者和这个家人在一起，那么他可能就有一些责任，需要帮助家人来还债。
I don't know all the details. I don't know what happened and how the money why the money was taken and how they became in debt. But
但是呢，就是关于您这个事儿的这个细节我不知道，因为就这钱不知道这个债是怎么欠的。
Was the money given to the family, or was the money just given to one member in the family?
就这个钱到底是 由这个家人欠的呢，还是这个家人里面的一个成员欠的？
Was the money used for the whole family, or was the money just taken by one individual?
还有呢，就是这个钱呢是被整个家人都用了呢，还是只是被其中的一个人用了？然后下面这个问题哈，Sudita Sangamaji 的问题，每个年代都有每个年代成就的方法，在铁器年代，奉爱服务应该是念诵 Hare Krishna 曼陀，没有其他方法。请问，只是不冒犯的念诵 Hare Krishna 的曼陀罗和遵守思想规范原则就能回归灵性世界吗？
Yes, right.
对。
Just by chanting Hare Krishna and following the 4 principles, you can go back to Godhead.
只是念诵 Hare Krishna 和遵守思想规范原则就能够回归守神。
One devotee said to Prabhupada, he said, Prabhupada, I'm chanting Hare Krishna and I'm following the principles, but I'm not able to think of Krishna.
然后有一位奉献者，他就对刷帕帕说：“刷帕帕，我在念诵圣名，我也在遵守思想规范原则，但是我就没有办法老想 Krishna。”
So Prabhupada said to him, he said, well, you continue to do your service for Krishna and keep up your chanting and follow the 4 principles. Then at the end of your life, Krishna will force himself into your mind and take you back to Godhead.
然后是帕帕就说呢，你呢就继续为 Sri Krishna 做服务，然后呢继续念诵圣名，并且遵守规范原则。那么等你在离开躯体的时候呢 ，Sri Krishna 他就会强行进入到你的这个就进入到你的这个心意里面，然后呢把你给带回到守神身边去。
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. 下面Galax 的问题，感恩咕噜的仁慈，请问啤酒是不是也是一种麻醉呢？对灵性进步影响很大。If the beer is also a kind of one of the intoxications, isn't it has a big impact to the spiritual advancement?
Yes.
是的。
Beer is intoxicating.
这个啤酒它是会让人醉的。
So you drink beer, you become more attached to your body. You identify more with the body, and you're thinking more about the pleasure of your tongue and your belly.
所以说呢，就如果你要是喝啤酒的话呢，你就会更加的依附于你的躯体，就更加的处在这个躯体化的概念之中。然后呢，你就会更加的去让你的舌头和肚腹去享受。
And you have to understand, spiritual master has given us instructions that we shouldn't take any intoxication.
而且我们要知道，我们的灵性导师给了我们训谕，是让我们不要吸食任何的麻醉品。
So if you're taking beer, it's against the instructions of the spiritual teachers.
那也就是说，如果我们要是喝啤酒的话，那也就是违反了灵性导师们所给我们的训谕。
And if you're not following the instructions of the spiritual teachers, then you won't be able to chant the holy name properly.
但是如果我们要是不能够遵守灵性导师所给我们的训谕的话，那也就意味着我们没有办法恰当的去念诵圣名。
So you won't go back to Godhead.
所以说呢，就回不了守神那儿去了。
Yes.
The last question， 最后一个问题哈 ，Harini 的问题，为什么念诵圣名也是对我们祈祷的回应 ？Why chanting the holy name is also the answering of our prayer?
Oh, yeah. 祈祷的回应。Okay. Yes. Because we're chanting the holy name, the Maha Mantra means, O Supreme Lord Krishna, please engage me in your service.
因为当我们在念诵圣名的时候，其实我们是对主的一种祈祷，祈祷的是，亲爱的主啊，请你让我为您做服务。
But because we're chanting the holy name, we're being engaged in service.
但是呢，因为我们在念诵圣名，也就意味着其实我们就已经是在做服务了。
So, our prayer is being answered.
所以说呢，就是我们的这个祈祷就被回应了。
So keep chanting.
所以呢，就要不断的念诵。
And Krishna will answer all of your prayers.
那么 Krishna 呢，就会回应你所有的祈祷。Jai Maharaj, everything.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, Fei Changanshia, Danakili Madaji, Ki Waman Jintai de Fun E, Waman Ganshia Sau de Functions of Ling Ting and T1, Waman Jintai Shao Wilai, Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada Ki.
非常感谢你星耀马尔之为我们的精彩讲述，以及对所有的这些问题的耐心解答。感恩所有的奉献者的聆听。那我们下午4点半的时候呢，再见。
Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada Ki.